atas kekuatan dan ketahanan ekonomi Indonesia. Kesempatan ini merupakan momentum berharga yang hanya dapat terjadi sekali setiap generasi. Untuk itu, Presidensi G20 2022 harus dimanfaatkan sebaik mungkin. Dari penyusunan agenda pembahasan yang dapat mendukung pemulihan dunia sekaligus memberi manfaat bagi Indonesia, penyelenggaraan kegiatan yang menampilkan kualitas unggul Indonesia di tingkat internasional, hingga promosi Indonesia untuk meningkatkan perdagangan, pariwisata, dan investasi dalam negeri. Kontribusi semua pihak sangat penting, mulai penyusunan materi, penyiapan sarana prasarana, hingga komunikasi. Dukungan masyarakat pun sangat berarti untuk meningkatkan citra Indonesia di dunia internasional. Mari manfaatkan momentum Presidensi G20 Indonesia 2022 untuk beri kebaikan bagi bangsa. Indonesia, saatnya pimpin pemulihan dunia. Dunia saat ini tengah berjuang, hadapi musuh tak kasat mata, yang memberi dampak pada seluruh aspek kehidupan. Namun di tengah tantangan selalu ada secercah harapan. Aktivitas terus berjalan memutar roda perekonomian. Dalam keadaan ini, seluruh dunia perlu bergerak bersama, mencapai pemulihan bersama. Ini pula yang berusaha dilakukan oleh G20. Forum G20 terdiri atas negara-negara terbesar di dunia. Bersama, G20 membentuk lebih dari 60% populasi bumi, 75% perdagangan global, dan 80% PDB dunia. Tujuan G20 adalah untuk mewujudkan pertumbuhan global yang kuat, berkelanjutan, seimbang, dan inklusif. Tiap tahunnya, presidensi G20 dipegang oleh salah satu negara anggota yang memiliki andil dalam menentukan topik pembahasan forum. Dan pada 2022, presidensi G20 dijabat oleh Indonesia. Dengan keadaan dunia yang masih terdampak pandemi, presidensi ini merupakan pengakuan atas kekuatan dan ketahanan ekonomi Indonesia. Kesempatan ini merupakan momentum berharga yang hanya dapat terjadi sekali setiap generasi. Untuk itu, Presidensi G20 2022 harus dimanfaatkan sebaik mungkin. Dari penyusunan agenda pembahasan yang dapat mendukung pemulihan dunia sekaligus memberi manfaat bagi Indonesia, penyelenggaraan kegiatan yang menampilkan kualitas unggul Indonesia di tingkat internasional, hingga promosi Indonesia untuk meningkatkan perdagangan, pariwisata, dan investasi dalam negeri. Kontribusi semua pihak sangat penting, mulai penyusunan materi, penyiapan sarana prasarana, hingga komunikasi. Dukungan masyarakat pun sangat berarti untuk meningkatkan citra Indonesia di dunia internasional. Mari manfaatkan momentum presidensi G20 Indonesia 2022 untuk beri kebaikan bagi bangsa. Indonesia, saatnya pimpin pemulihan dunia. Dunia saat ini tengah berjuang, hadapi musuh tak kasat mata, yang memberi dampak pada seluruh aspek kehidupan. Namun di tengah tantangan selalu ada secercah harapan. Aktivitas terus berjalan memutar roda perekonomian. Dalam keadaan ini, seluruh dunia perlu bergerak bersama, mencapai pemulihan bersama. Ini pula yang berusaha dilakukan oleh G20. Forum G20 terdiri atas negara-negara terbesar di dunia. Bersama, G20 membentuk lebih dari 60% populasi bumi, 75% perdagangan global, dan 80% PDB dunia. Tujuan G20 adalah untuk mewujudkan pertumbuhan global yang kuat, berkelanjutan, seimbang, dan inklusif. Tiap tahunnya, presidensi G20 dipegang oleh salah satu negara anggota yang memiliki andil dalam menentukan topik pembahasan forum. Dan pada 2022, presidensi G20 dijabat oleh Indonesia. Dengan keadaan dunia yang masih terdampak pandemi, presidensi ini merupakan pengakuan atas kekuatan dan ketahanan ekonomi Indonesia. Kesempatan ini merupakan momentum berharga yang hanya dapat terjadi sekali setiap generasi. Untuk itu, presidensi G20 2022 harus dimanfaatkan sebaik mungkin. Dari penyusunan agenda pembahasan yang dapat mendukung pemulihan dunia sekaligus memberi manfaat bagi Indonesia, penyelenggaraan kegiatan yang menampilkan kualitas unggul Indonesia di tingkat internasional, hingga promosi Indonesia untuk meningkatkan perdagangan, pariwisata, dan investasi dalam negeri. Kontribusi semua pihak sangat penting, mulai penyusunan materi, penyiapan sarana prasarana, hingga komunikasi. Dukungan masyarakat pun sangat berarti untuk meningkatkan citra Indonesia di dunia internasional. Mari manfaatkan momentum presidensi G20 Indonesia 2022 untuk beri kebaikan bagi bangsa. Indonesia, saatnya pimpin pemulihan dunia. Dunia saat ini tengah berjuang hadapi musuh tak kasat mata yang memberi dampak pada seluruh aspek kehidupan. Namun di tengah tantangan selalu ada secercah harapan. Aktivitas terus berjalan memutar roda perekonomian. Dalam keadaan ini, seluruh dunia perlu bergerak bersama, mencapai pemulihan bersama. Ini pula yang berusaha dilakukan oleh G20. Forum G20 terdiri atas negara-negara terbesar di dunia. Bersama, G20 membentuk lebih dari 60% populasi bumi, 75% perdagangan global, dan 80% PDB dunia. Tujuan G20 adalah untuk mewujudkan pertumbuhan global yang kuat, berkelanjutan, seimbang, dan inklusif. Tiap tahunnya, presidensi G20 dipegang oleh salah satu negara anggota yang memiliki andil dalam menentukan topik pembahasan forum. Dan pada 2022, presidensi G20 dijabat oleh Indonesia. Dengan keadaan dunia yang masih terdampak pandemi, presidensi ini merupakan pengakuan atas kekuatan dan ketahanan ekonomi Indonesia. Kesempatan ini merupakan momentum berharga yang hanya dapat terjadi sekali setiap generasi. Untuk itu, presidensi G20 2022 harus dimanfaatkan sebaik mungkin. Dari penyusunan agenda pembahasan yang dapat mendukung pemulihan dunia sekaligus memberi manfaat bagi Indonesia, penyelenggaraan kegiatan yang menampilkan kualitas unggul Indonesia di tingkat internasional, hingga promosi Indonesia untuk meningkatkan perdagangan, pariwisata, dan investasi dalam negeri. Kontribusi semua pihak sangat penting, mulai penyusunan materi, penyiapan sarana prasarana, hingga komunikasi. Dukungan masyarakat pun sangat berarti untuk meningkatkan citra Indonesia di dunia internasional. Mari manfaatkan momentum presidensi G20 Indonesia 2022 untuk beri kebaikan bagi bangsa. Indonesia, saatnya pimpin pemulihan dunia. Dunia saat ini tengah berjuang hadapi musuh tak kasat mata yang memberi dampak pada seluruh aspek kehidupan. Namun di tengah tantangan selalu ada secercah harapan. Aktivitas terus berjalan memutar roda perekonomian. Dalam keadaan ini, seluruh dunia perlu bergerak bersama, mencapai pemulihan bersama. Ini pula yang berusaha dilakukan oleh G20. Forum G20 terdiri atas negara-negara terbesar di dunia. Bersama, G20 membentuk lebih dari 60% populasi bumi, 75% perdagangan global, dan 80% PDB dunia. Tujuan G20 adalah untuk mewujudkan pertumbuhan global yang kuat, berkelanjutan, seimbang, dan inklusif. Tiap tahunnya, presidensi G20 dipegang oleh salah satu negara anggota yang memiliki andil dalam menentukan topik pembahasan forum. Dan pada 2022, presidensi G20 dijabat oleh Indonesia. Dengan keadaan dunia yang masih terdampak pandemi, presidensi ini merupakan pengakuan atas kekuatan dan ketahanan ekonomi Indonesia. Kesempatan ini merupakan momentum berharga yang hanya dapat terjadi sekali setiap generasi. Untuk itu, presidensi G20 2022 harus dimanfaatkan sebaik mungkin. Dari penyusunan agenda pembahasan yang dapat mendukung pemulihan dunia sekaligus memberi manfaat bagi Indonesia, penyelenggaraan kegiatan yang menampilkan kualitas unggul Indonesia di tingkat internasional, hingga promosi Indonesia untuk meningkatkan perdagangan, pariwisata, dan investasi dalam negeri. Kontribusi semua pihak sangat penting, mulai penyusunan materi, penyiapan sarana prasarana, hingga komunikasi. Dukungan masyarakat pun sangat berarti untuk meningkatkan citra Indonesia di dunia internasional. Mari manfaatkan momentum presidensi G20 Indonesia 2022 untuk beri kebaikan bagi bangsa. Indonesia, saatnya pimpin pemulihan dunia. Dunia saat ini tengah berjuang, hadapi musuh tak kasat mata, yang memberi dampak pada seluruh aspek kehidupan. Namun di tengah tantangan selalu ada secercah harapan. Aktivitas terus berjalan memutar roda perekonomian. Dalam keadaan ini, seluruh dunia perlu bergerak bersama, mencapai pemulihan bersama. Ini pula yang berusaha dilakukan oleh G20. Forum G20 terdiri atas negara-negara terbesar di dunia. Bersama, G20 membentuk lebih dari 60% populasi bumi, 75% perdagangan global, dan 80% PDB dunia. Tujuan G20 adalah untuk mewujudkan pertumbuhan global yang kuat, berkelanjutan, seimbang, dan inklusif. Tiap tahunnya, presidensi G20 dipegang oleh salah satu negara anggota yang memiliki andil dalam menentukan topik pembahasan forum. Dan pada 2022, presidensi G20 dijabat oleh Indonesia. Dengan keadaan dunia yang masih terdampak pandemi, presidensi ini merupakan pengakuan atas kekuatan dan ketahanan ekonomi Indonesia. Kesempatan ini merupakan momentum berharga yang hanya dapat terjadi sekali setiap generasi. Untuk itu, presidensi G20 2022 harus dimanfaatkan sebaik mungkin. Dari penyusunan agenda pembahasan yang dapat mendukung pemulihan dunia sekaligus memberi manfaat bagi Indonesia, penyelenggaraan kegiatan yang menampilkan kualitas unggul Indonesia di tingkat internasional, hingga promosi Indonesia untuk meningkatkan perdagangan, pariwisata, dan investasi dalam negeri. Kontribusi semua pihak sangat penting, mulai penyusunan materi, penyiapan sarana prasarana, hingga komunikasi. Dukungan masyarakat pun sangat berarti untuk meningkatkan citra Indonesia di dunia internasional. Mari manfaatkan momentum presidensi G20 Indonesia 2022 untuk beri kebaikan bagi bangsa. Indonesia, saatnya pimpin pemulihan dunia.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin. Habibina wa syafi'ina maulana Muhammad wa ala ashabihi ajma'in. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the first day of Indonesia Fintech Summit 2021. The topic of this breakout session is ESG, Environment, Social and Governance, and Islamic Fintech, the future of impact investing. We are hosting this event in a hybrid session, so I am here from Nusa Dua Bali, from Indonesia Fintech Summit, and some of you already joined our session on Zoom. So I would like to inform you more about Indonesia Fintech Summit. This is the prime program of Pekan Fintech Nasional, which aims to bring local and international fintech founders, regulators, financial institutions, investors, academics, and other key stakeholders to discuss recent industry and regulatory topics, network, as well formalize advocacy strategy or action to accelerate digitization in financial service industry, as well as boosting economy recovery. Consistently co-hosted by the Central Bank of Indonesia, or BI, Indonesia Financial Service Authority, or OJK, AFTEC, AFSI, and AFPI, the summit has been the flagship event of fintech industry since 2019. My name is Muhammad Ismail. I am the General Secretary of AFSI, the Indonesia Sharia Fintech Association, who will be the moderator and guide our today's session. Before we begin this session, allow me to tell you some of the rules of the webinar, especially for you who joined the session on Zoom. Okay, so make sure that you have a good signal receptions. Use your PC or laptops for better experience. If you are using mobile phone, adjust your screen for landscape mode. Turn off the auto rotate, of course, and use your headset or earphone for clearer sound. For mutual convenience during the event, the host will set a mute or mute mode on the participant voice. And participants who want to ask questions to resource person or the speakers can write questions on the Q&A column and state the name of the intended resource person. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are honored to have three high-profile speakers today. So I would like to introduce the three speakers. First, Pak Iman Shah, or Mr. Iman Shah. He is Deputy Commissioner OJK Institute and digital finance. And luckily, I have him here in Nusa Dua, Bali. So I will invite Pak Imansyah to the stage. It's okay. Yes, hello, Pak Imansyah. How are you doing, Pak?
Hi, thank you. I'm fine. Thank you. I'm
Good.
fine.
Okay, before we continue discussion, let me introduce two other prominent speakers here. Professor Dian Mashita, PhD, the Dean of Faculty Economics and Business, Indonesian International Islamic University. Professor Dian already joined us in Zoom. Hello, Professor Dian. How are you?
Hello, I'm fine, thank you. How are you,
Alhamdulillah.
Muhammad
You look
Ismail?
good, Bu. I hope you can feel the vibe that we are here in Bali.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, and the third speakers today, Dr. Muhammad Ubaidullah, very well-known Islamic finance speakers, lead research economist, Islamic Development Bank Institute. The topic of the discussion in this session is ESG and Islamic Fintech, the future of impact investing. We will listen to presentation from speakers with multiple perspectives on the relation of ESG with Islamic Fintech and the future of impact investing. So I know all the audience today are keen to understand more the knowledge about how ESG and Islamic finance toward the future of impact investing. So let's start our first session by hearing Mr. Imansyah on his presentation. So Pak Imansyah, the stage is yours, the screen is yours, Pak.
Okay. Thank you, Pak Muhammad Ismail. And I think it's a great pleasure as well for me to come and join this breakout session this afternoon. So a very good afternoon as well for all the participants as well as also the speakers. I think we're going to have like a very insightful discussion later on with regard to the topic that we have right now concerning about the environmental, social and governance and Islamic fintechs in Indonesia. I think this is a very timely topic in particular when Indonesia is appointed as the presidency for G20 and then the theme that we have right now is recover together, recover stronger. And the one issues that been also very frequent being discussed is about how we are mitigating the climate risk, the climate risk in particular when we have right now when we see a lot of catastrophes having take place in Indonesia. Just recently, I think we have to send a message as well, our condolences as well for our our families in Lumajang because of this semi eruption. So hopefully all of them will be recover well, and I think they can settle later on, and we can have also they can have their life normal again. Okay, back to the topic that we have right now. I think I don't know how long I can talk about this topic, but I think because the topic is very, I mean, I have to see the linkage between the ESG as well as the Islamic fintechs and also the investment in the future. Something that is a quite broad idea to talk, but anyway, I try to to go into more details actually, and then we can see whether we are as a regulator to some extent have done something and be ready for the next step for how we portray this ESG as well as the Islamic fintechs in the future. I think that's really a good opportunity for me in particular because previously I was in charge as well for this the adoptions of sustainable finance in the OJK, and I'm representing as well OJK in some discussions with our colleagues from the other countries. So something is also very much interesting because now it's becoming more relevant in the future about the ESG as well as the sustainable finance. Okay, thank you. I think I would like to start my presentation with the first slide on this current development of Syria finance in Indonesia. For sure, after all my slides have been presented, maybe we can have also further discussions, right? Okay, slide number 3, please, if you don't mind, just go there. So it's, from this slide we can see about this, the very current development of the Sharia finance in Indonesia. So in terms of from 2018 to June 2021, we can see actually it's the Sharia market share is still growing, right? Although in the mid of COVID-19, in which that it is the time for us for struggling in every way of our lives as well as for us to do the business. But anyway, we can see from the picture, the figure is actually when we can see from the banking industry, from non-banking industry as well as the capital market, it's growing actually. But how you compare this growing industry, the Islamic, the Sharia financial asset in how you compare into the Indonesian wide. So as of September 2021, the total of Sharia financial asset in Indonesia, excluding the Sharia stock for sure, is at 1,901 billion rupiah. So that's really huge, right? But in terms how you compare, the market share is only representing 10.1% of the total of financial asset here in Indonesia. So yeah, it's growing, but relatively still small, right? So I think that's really the challenge for all of us to in the future, how we can push even harder that the Sharia market will be increasing in the future. Okay, then we have something that maybe some what is it? A spirit for us to work harder when we can see that we are targeting in terms of global Islamic economy indicator. Let's say we are in the 4th place, and then Islamic Finance Country Index, we are in 2nd place, and also in terms of Islamic Finance Development Indicator 2020, we are also in the 2nd place. So, but we are not really satisfied with that indicators, right? So we're moving ahead, that we can even higher based on that those indicators. Next slide shows us as well in the landscape of fintechs here in Indonesia. So we have already most the business model for the fintechs in Indonesia is actually in this form of P2P lending, representing about 43%, and the rest, consists of payments and as well as the innovation, digital finance innovations. But at least from the statistics, we can see that 101 licensed and 3 registered, total 104, is actually in the form of P2P lending. And then we have 7 licensed equity securities crowdfunding, and we have 82 recorded, divided into 15 cluster digital finance innovations in OJK. We have the Infinity. Everybody can submit their model, fintech model into our Infinity, and then we can have like a sandboxing there. So the next slide is actually just a breakdown of the 15 cluster that we have, and also the number of, you can see there, 6 Sharia business model, 76 conventional group into 15 cluster, and 82 recorded in OJK. And very fortunate that we have also 6 Sharia-based digital finance innovations. Like you can see there, there's the business model as an aggregator, funding agent, insurtech, and financing agent. So that's really a quick highlight on how we can see about this fintechs landscape in Indonesia, including as well the Sharia the Islamic fintechs. So moving on to the next slide, on slide number 7, please. We are talking about the second roadmap, our roadmap phase 2 on sustainable finance in Indonesia. So when we are talking about environmental, social, and governance, so we are talking actually about sustainable finance, right? Because it's something also somebody mentions about 3 P's, right? Peace is people, planet, and profit. Okay, they have to be well balanced about that 3 P. So and then it when we reverse back to the finance sector, we convert it into sustainable finance. We translate it into sustainable finance. So we completed already the phase 1, and we issue already the phase 2, the roadmap on sustainable finance last year. So we very much we quite sure that this will be something that becoming a more comprehensive approach on how we are adopting the sustainable finance concept in the financial sector. So when we can see the picture, I do sorry because it's still in Bahasa, but we have the 7 components including into our roadmap phase 2 on sustainable finance. It consists of policy, product, market infrastructure, coordination among ministries and institutions, the non-government support, talking about as well the human resources, and also awareness. And I think in terms of the last point that we can see there about the awareness, is already we have struggling on that very specific issues since the first roadmap phase 1 on sustainable finance, because we have to build like the same perceptions of people, not only in the financial sector, but also us as a a man in the street. Do you really understand about the sustainable finance? Because it's affecting as well your lives, how you are building your mindset, how you are changing your behavior. So all those things will be related into how the successfulness of sustainable finance will be implemented in Indonesia. So accordingly, OJK has issued 2 regulations for sustainable finance implementations here in Indonesia. So the first one is POJK number 51 2017 concerning sustainable finance. So the general issues of sustainable finance will be stipulated into that POJK. And in particular for the capital market, we have the POJK number 60 2017 about the green bond. So since then, we have a lot of issuance on green bond actually, and sustainable related as well to sustainable finance concepts. And I think when we move to the other to the next slide, we are talking about how we are doing the fintech supervision. So I try to to link about this, where how we are approaching the sustainable finance and how we are building the framework on fintech supervisions. So I think from when we have this visionary talk, the Minister of Finance, Ibu Sri Mulyani, mentions about the light touch, right? Light touch approach. So it is very, I think, what is it? When we draft the regulations on P2P lending, I just remember that a lot of issues that we want to put there. Including as well how we are design the risk management and applying into the P2P lending. And then the Board of Commissioners, told me that you cannot really compare the incumbent banks, which is very highly regulated in industry, you compare to the fintech. So that's why I think from the beginning we do very aware that we're going to just apply the light touch, light touch, because we try to strike the right balance between the innovation and as well as the risk. Okay, so what we can see here, we have like 7 dimensions on how we are talking about the adequate fintech ecosystems. So first, we are talking about the regulatory framework. I mentioned before, we're talking about how to have the very well balance between the innovation and so how to mitigate the risk. And we come up with like light touch and safe harbor. So it's light touch, but everybody happy because there's no potential risk, bad impact to our financial sector. So and then market conduct supervision model, and then we have also provide regulatory sandbox. I think this happened already, and also Fintech center and collaborate with the Fintech associations. It's very important to have these Fintech associations, as is what is it, self-regulatory bodies that will have also the regulator like ourselves, how you are imposing the code of conduct among your member. And the last one is actually strongly enforces the law for protecting consumer. That's really what we have right now. So when you see into the next slide, is talking about in particular, because we are talking about investment, I think I just want to go very specific on how we adopt that approach into the Islamic capital market, right? So we have the program, Islamic Capital Market Roadmap 2020 up to 2024. Among the programs that we have right now is utilizations of financial technology to support Islamic capital market. And the action plans that we have right now is, first we done with study that to optimizing the utilization of blockchain technology in the Islamic capital market. And the second one is utilization of crowdfunding platforms to promote micro-scoop in issuance. So we have this POJK number 57, 2020, and it is very much talking about retail investor into the how they are doing investment into the capital market. And it is, I think, one the instrument that we are offering is about micro-sukuk insurance. And the third one is about supporting the establishment of Sharia crowdfunding platform. We have right now one that full-fledged Sharia platform and platforms that have Sharia unit. So it's like a bank, it's like a window in banks. For sure, we have like a financing gap. I think the next slide is like a, what is it? Sharia potential opportunities that we can go there. So can see from the picture that we still have like in 2024 there will be the need for like 337 billion US dollar for SDG financing. So I think it's like an opportunity for, in particular for the Islamic fintech to contribute as well how we can filling the gap for the financing for the SDGs. But I think on the other hand, we still very concerned as well with the challenges, right? The challenges is, I think, 4 areas of concern to be resolved by stakeholders for upscaling the contribution of Sharia fintech to the economy. One is about this, how we are doing in a very consistent way and on the financial product. And then I think one of the idea is to do the campaign. Because I can see the conventional platform, we can see the campaign everywhere. We can see the, but with the Sharia fintech, I haven't seen any like campaign, right? You promoting yourself into the main road, and then everybody can see, oh, we have this Sharia fintech actually. But still up to today, where I live in Bekasi, when I travel from Jakarta to Bekasi, I don't have yet any, which one is Sharia fintech anyway? I don't see yet that campaign, okay? Yeah, you have to be more aggressive, right? Okay, thank you. And talking about resources as well, human resources, I think is very common issues, not only for yourself as the players in the market, but as well for the regulators. When we engage with the issue with the Sharia banks, for sure, we still also encountered the issue of having also the adequate number of human resources. So, but fintech Sharia becoming even more issues there. Not only understanding about the business of fintech, but also it must be in the area of Islam as well, Sharia as well. Then you have like people that understand as well about the concept of Sharia. And the other one is about the need to more coordination and collaboration with regulators. So because I think, in particular with the SDGs, we are now developing the taxonomy, the green taxonomy, and we are talking about the incentive as well. So something that we have in the future that we have to be in place already, then we can talk about the SDGs as well as the how is the role of Islamic fintechs. And the last one is about this lack of supervisory role. I think it will be part of your contribution as the associations to impose the code of conduct among your members. So I think with that we are expecting to have like a more complete and holistic ecosystems, and we can expecting that the Islamic fintech, the Sharia fintech will have more contributions in the future. In particular as well, we can see the opportunities because from the SDG side, because of this the huge financing gap. I can see maybe the securities crowdfunding. My colleagues remind me things there's a lot of potential funding is actually for the SDGs, for the ESG, and we are very much still out of number of products that we can issue to the market. But now everybody talking about climate change, right? If the features in our instruments, financial instrument, is talking about how we are mitigating the climate change, I think that's really the opportunity to have fundings, and then you can use that funding for doing more financing for the other relevant parties. So I stop here, and then very happy to have also further discussions later on if there's any questions that we can discuss, and also for sure from the other speakers. Then it's again thank you very much, and also thank you for the opportunity to share and to update ideas from us as a regulator for the financial sector here in Indonesia. Thank you. I stop here, and I just back to you, Pak Muhammad Ismail. Thank you.
Okay, wow. Give Pak Imansyah a big applause. Thanks a lot, Pak Imansyah. It was a very insightful presentation, since you spend most of your career in area of banking policy and regulation, and it helps a lot on drawing how the future of fintech, especially how the ESG can work together with the Islamic finance toward the future of impact investing. Okay, Pak, so stay with me. I believe that most of the audience has already blown their mind with questions, so I need to keep your question. We'll give you a session there. Okay, so we still have two speakers, Professor Dian Masita and Mr. Muhammad Obaidullah. I hope Professor Dian Masita and Mr. Dr. Muhammad Obaidullah already joined us in Zoom. Hello, Professor Dian and Dr. Muhammad Obaidullah. Assalamualaikum.
Hello.
Waalaikumsalam, Brother
Warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
MashaAllah. Okay, thank you for joining us here. So once again, I hope you both, Professor Dian and Dr. Muhammad Obaidullah, can have the vibe that we have here. You can enjoy the vibe of Bali, because currently now we are in Nusa Dua, Bali, attending the Indonesia Fintech Summit 20 and 21. Okay, so the next speaker will be Professor Dian, who will give you 20 minutes of presentation. Professor Dian, she's graduated with a PhD in Islamic finance from Durham University, England, UK in 2012. And prior to pursuing her PhD program, she was a member of the R&D division in Badan Wakaf Indonesia, and she was awarded the top 5 most influential women in Islamic business and finance 2020 by Cambridge IFA, and the best Sharia 2019 by the Investor magazine. We feel honored to have you here, Professor Dian. So the stage and the screen is yours, Professor.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Muhammad Ismail. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajmain amma ba'du. Thank you very much to Fintech Syariah team who had invited to share this Indonesia Fintech Summit 2021. Prominent speaker Bapak Irmansyah and Dr. Obaidullah, guests and conference participants, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. It is a great honor for me to be here today to have this opportunity to share my perspective to the Indonesian Fintech Summit. Today, my presentation title, Islamic Finance, ESG, and Islamic Fintech, the Future of Impact Investing. Next slide, please. We have 6 agenda for today. The first one, ESG framework overview. The second one, problems. The third one, ESG and Islamic finance. The fourth one, impact investing, and continue Islamic fintech. And the last agenda is what next. Next slide, please. Okay, so our ESG overview. ESG, the emerging of responsible investing and sustainable finance and non-finance movements, is a response to the post-global finance crisis, where the social purpose of corporation was publicly challenged. At the same time, challenges climate change is presenting to global stability and biodiversity loss. As we know, the practice of considering environment, social, and government issues in investing has evolved significantly from its origins in exclusionary screening of listed equities on the basis of moral values. Next slide, please. So we can see ESG is an evaluation of a firm's collective consciousness for environment, social, and governance factors. It is typically a score that is compiled from data collected surrounding specific metrics related to intangible assets within the enterprise. It means it could be considered a form of corporate social credit score. And research shows that such intangible assets comprise an increasing percentage of future enterprise value, with considering the carbon footprint of the activity being finance or child labor with supply chains, or the impact of deforestation on biodiversity and natural habitat loss. Next slide, please. So here we have 6 SRI or and ESG method. The first one, inclusionary screening. The second one, based in class selection. The third one, active ownership, thematic investing, impact investing, and ESG integration. If we explore more detail, inclusionary screening refers to avoiding securities of certain companies or countries on the basis of traditional moral values, such as including products and services involving alcohol, tobacco, or gambling, and the basis of standards and norms such as human rights and environment protection. In norm-based screening, the focus is on the company behavior regarding international accepted norms such as human rights and labor standard. And for the best-in-class selection, refers to preferring companies with better or improving ESG performance relative to sector peers. Investing more in companies with better ESG performance levels and momentum relative to sector peers. Best-in-class methodology is sometimes referred to as a positive selection, positive screening, and positive alignment. The third one, active ownership. Active ownership refers to the practice of entering into a dialogue with the companies on ESG issues and exercising both ownership right and voice to affect change. The active ownership is sharp contrast to the idea that investors should vote with their feet, that is simply sell-off investment which questionable practices. And thematic investing refers to investing that is based on trends such as social, industrial, and demographic trends. A number of investment themes are based on ESG issues, including clean technology, green real estate, um, sustainable forestry, agriculture, education, health, and so on. And the impact investing refers to investing with the disclosed intention to generate or measure social and environmental benefits alongside a financial return. According to the Global Impact Investing Network, the practice of impact investing has four core characteristics. The first one, investor intend to have a social and or environment impact. The second one, investor use evidence and available data to drive investment design. The third one, investor manage investment towards the intended impact through measures such as establishing feedback loops and communication of performance. And the fourth one, investor with credible impact investing practices use share industry terms, conventions, and also indicators. The last one, ESG integration. ESG integration refers to systematic and explicit inclusion of ESG risks and opportunities in investment analysis. Unlike best-in-class selection, ESG integration doesn't necessarily require peer group benchmarking. The integration of ESG risks and opportunity into investment analysis is relevant for most investors. Next slide, please. These are main problems. We see impact of the COVID-19 on a global extreme poverty. We can see a very huge number people fell into extreme poverty. Before the crisis, around 580 million people in the next 2024, but because of due to the crisis 19, changed to 720 million people in the world live under extreme poverty. So this is a very big problem that we have to find a solution in the near future. Next slide, please. So how about relation ESG and also Islamic finance? As we all know, Islamic finance is finance that abides by Islamic prohibition regarding the purpose and structure of finance. Specifically, it must avoid financing prohibited businesses, riba, and excessive gharar, which are generally understood to include lending money at interest and sale of risk, respectively. At the other hand, ESG methods most widely used in Islamic finance is evolutionary screening. To abide by Islamic prohibitions, all institutions such as Islamic finance across all segments, banking, capital, insurance, etc., and involved in this method. Next slide, please. So it's very good differences here. There are the economic value versus moral value, and some may see them solely as economic risk and opportunity, a source of economic value. But the others may see ESG issue not just as risks and opportunities, but also as a matter of moral value. So what a moral value? Because moral value, many people motivated by moral values may not wish to become complicit in action they find objectionable. or they may actively attempt to make a positive impact on society or the environment. So at this fundamental point in the value versus values debate in that what investor means by economic value is usually quite similar, but what they see as a moral value may differ widely. Investors who take into consideration ESG issues, whether motivated solely by economic value or moral value, or by mix of both, may help bring positive change for the society and the environment. So the combination economic value and moral value can make investor have the positive changing for society. Next slide, please. This very interesting relationship between Sharia screen, ESG screen, and also how they can create the performance. But in here, we just see that there are some connection between what is Sharia screen and ESG screen. There are some common point to screening the investment. Next slide, please. Okay, this is very interesting issue here. When we see there are comparison ESG, Islamic finance, and also conventional finance. When we see in the table, maybe it's very small, but later I can share this slide presentation. You can read into details. Here, Islamic finance very strict to no riba permitted, no security lending permitted, asset must be owned, and riba is prohibited. This the black one, the black tables. No shorting permitted and asset must be owned. This is very clear here. But at the same time, ESG investing is not too strict, and also mostly they are not Sharia compliance. But when we see there are a similarity here, Islamic finance referred to as part of Islamic economic using Islamic worldview. It seeks identify ways and means to arrive at a more just economic order, one with less inequality and more stability than the present one. So very clear what the different ESG investing, Islamic finance, also conventional in this table, but there are some similarity. At least when in screening criteria, when ESG investing have a high levels based on a client specific fund or specific screening policies, in Islamic finance 100 application based on Sharia compliance. So there are a very strict screening, but in very interesting here, how the company engagement and environmental and social issue. In this table, we can see ESG investing of very high levels, but Islamic finance very low level to engage to the environment and social issue here. The same with conventional finance, also the same. So ESG investing give more concentration to care about environment and social issue compared to the Islamic finance. Next slide, please. But in the research conducted by Aequions in 2019, they investigated 6,554 companies around the world, and 2,387 out of them Sharia compliance, and the rest of them is not Sharia compliance. It's very good news here. Compared to non-Sharia compliance, Sharia compliance company have more ESG score compared to the non-Sharia compliance. Overall, in global, there are gap 5.9% Sharia compliance company better than non-Sharia compliant company. That's also the same in every aspect, environment, social, and governance. All the indicators show that Sharia compliance company have more score compared to the not Sharia compliant company. Next slide, please.
Professor, we have 5 minutes left for your presentation.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so just the proof that Sharia compliance company have the good scoring compared to not Sharia company. Next slide, please. If for financial and also non-financial, this the next slide is give the data, the result of the research to say that there are close engage between value from ESG and also Islamic finance. Next slide, please. Next slide. Next slide, please. Next slide. Okay, so what is impact investing? Impact investing are investment made with the intention to generate positive, measurable social and environment impact alongside a financial return. We can see here there are impact investing in many aspects, such as water and sanitation, habitat conservation, and so on. So this the impact of the ESG or the SRI investing. Next slide, please. So Islamic in Fintech. Next slide. And we all know we have Islamic Fintech framework and also ecosystem. Islamic Fintech ecosystem give us hope, a huge hope that Islamic finance will have more room to accelerate in the future, because with the technology, it's easy to reach the millennial and also the Generation Z. Why? Because with the bonus demography in Indonesia, we really hope that the next generation, millennial, Generation Z, and also the end of the Generation X still care about the environment, social, and also have the new perspective about the social, environment, and also Sharia compliance issue. Next slide, please. This is also the sector, Islamic Fintech-based sector. We can see a lot of varieties, a lot of choices, and all of them can engage each other, interdependent in reality. So in the future, we hope we can make the new ecosystem with the fintech and also with the Sharia compliance, and also care about the issue environment, social, and also governance. Next slide, please. This is the Indonesia. Financial technology still has a rising star in Indonesia at the moment, and we hope we can be what we call it tuan rumah in our country, and a lot of young generation involved in fintech in Indonesia. Next slide. So what next? This is the last slide. So we hope we can create an environment future financial landscape. We can see Islamic finance also provide related core principle for the creating a sustainable couple with the various tools for the government, industry, international institution, and also individual. Islamic economic and finance to promote change through the participative economic practices with the holistic approach towards the individual, society, and their collective well-being. And we can see here the future financial landscape driven by the long-term and wider objective, such as profit, people, and planet. Performance measurement consider both financial and non-financial aspect. There are a lot of innovation to create values for all. Impact-based approach that foster good conduct and the end meaningful and active roles of the key stakeholders such as customer, employees, and public. We can hand in hand to create the future financial landscape. And Islamic social finance also has the instrument which have the social impact and as we know, there are philanthropy such as zakat, infak, sedekah, and wakaf. We also have social investment such as sukuk, Islamic microfinance with and also fintech Sharia. So this our future tools to combat the poverty and give impact investment to the society. Next slide. Thank you very much. If you have any question, inshallah, I will try to answer. Or you can follow my IG or Facebook and we can answer your specific question later. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Professor Dian Mashita. It was a very insightful presentation. Thank you for covering how the COVID-19 impacted the extreme poverty and covering the method of ESG and the comparison between the Islamic finance, ESG, and conventional finance. So completing what Pak Imansyah mentioned earlier about the landscape of our fintech, the problems that the fintech Sharia is facing in Indonesia, and now you are talking more about what is the impact investing is and the comparison between ESG and Islamic finance. Okay, so please stay with us before the discussion session. We will now please our third speaker, Dr. Muhammad Ubaidullah. Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam, Doctor.
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Muhammad Ubaidullah. How are you doing?
Good afternoon, Doctor. I'm fine. Jazakallah khair. Thank you very much.
Alhamdulillah. So let me read some introduction about Dr. Muhammad Ubaidullah. He has been serving several international and national institutions of repute, including the Jeddah-based Islamic Development Bank Group, the Islamic Economics Institute of the King Abdulaziz University, and the International Islamic University in Malaysia, creating and sharing knowledge in the field of Islamic economics and finance with a focus of application of blockchain, AI, and other technologies to address development challenges. He was educated in India and holds a PhD and an MBA degree with a specialization in finance and certifications in microfinance, blockchain tech, digital money, fintech, and related areas. Dr. Ubaidullah will speak about a successful case or story of Islamic fintech and also the continuous improvement of Islamic fintech. So please, Dr. Muhammad Ubaidullah, the floor and the screen is yours.
Thank you, Doctor, and very good morning to all the participants. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's a great opportunity indeed for me to be able to participate here and share a few ideas on or some insights from a case study that I was associated with. This is basically a case study on impact, scoring and impact exchange, which I hope you would find interesting. Allow me a couple of minutes, a couple of seconds rather, to share my screen. There are not many slides. It's a short presentation. Okay. So this is a case study on impact measurement and exchange, and what we call, as in terms of a solution as a brand, we call it Confluence. Confluence because, again, what's the significance of this term? It is more related to the alignment of goals, the alignment of the Sustainable Development Goals as enunciated by the United Nations, and also the goals of the Sharia, or what we call the Maqasid al-Sharia. From some of our earlier research, basically what we observed, and this has also been documented in many studies of late by recent researchers, that there's a huge degree of alignment between the United Nations SDGs, the 17 goals, and what we call the Maqasid al-Sharia, for which again, you have different frameworks. Most of us, we use the framework of Imam Ghazali rahmatullahi alayhi, and also which is the 5 Maqasid. And then contemporary Islamic economists like, let's say, Dr. Umar Chapra, they have gone ahead with further, analysis of this 5 Maqasid al-Sharia into, I just made a count of the corollaries that he comes up with in his celebrated book on Islamic view on development. He includes 29 corollaries of this 5 Maqasid. Similarly, when we talk about the SDGs, you can see that under each SDG, each of the 17 SDGs, you have several several targets, and basically you have 2 frameworks, 2 very clear or well documented, well known frameworks. And the interesting part is that you can very easily map one to the other. And this is what I would like to start with. Okay, what is the objective of this project is, okay. The overall project is to promote social impact and sustainability projects based on blockchain with measurable metrics. Now, I will not get into details on the advantages of blockchain, and I think as students and practitioners of fintech, you already know about the benefits of blockchain, or putting data and metrics on the blockchain. That has got the advantage of being tamper-proof or immutability and transparency and so on and so forth. So this is the benefit that blockchain brings in. But the overall project, the purpose is to provide a framework for scoring of impact individually in terms of the SDGs and the Maqasid al-Sharia, and also if some investor is an Islamic investor who is concerned about Maqasid al-Sharia, is also concerned about SDGs, then he can get a kind of composite score from this framework. And then finally, in phase 2, this Confluence platform, phase 2, it facilitates the exchange of impact units, as we shall see later, among the different actors, different companies, individuals, NGOs, private or public. They can exchange the impact units to achieve their own optimal risk return impact portfolio. Now, this is again the basis of the solution itself. We see the confluence between the SDGs and the 5 Maqasid al-Sharia, and you can see that most of the the SDGs from, let's say, 1 to 7, 8, these are all, they relate to the the protection and sustenance, enrichment of or enhancement of the nafs or the self. And then you have also the Sharia gives equal importance to the planet or the posterity, which is categorized as protection and enrichment and enhancement of nasl. Within that, you have these projects. Again, within the each I would say component, you will see the different examples of projects that go to protect not only the Maqasid al-Sharia, but also the different SDGs they fall within this categories. So I will not go again more detail into this. I think that the framework is very clear. We have this, the SDG starting from SDG 11 to 15. They're all about, the climate change and responsible consumption and production and sustainable cities, clean energy, you have climate action, you have life below water and life on land. Now, all these are related to the posterity, related to the planet. And Sharia has a very strong Sharia basis in the primary sources of fiqh, which is the Quran and the Hadith. We find very strong references to the protection and enrichment of the planet for the posterity. And therefore, we can think of projects which come within the purview of not only the Maqasid Sharia, but also they go on to address specific, SDGs or sustainable development goals. So there are very strong areas of alignment as we find here. Now, when we think in terms of measuring or scoring the impact of a particular project and through the Confluence platform, and as I said, the phase one of the platform is to give it a score, which we call Islamic Value Analytics, IVA. And it is not something that is absolutely new. There are currently major projects that are going on to give you scores, but primarily focused on ESG or SDGs. For example, you have the IRIS Plus framework, which is created by the Global Impact Investment Network. It provides a catalog of generally accepted performance metrics. And you have a whole range of metrics that focusing on the different SDGs. And for each SDG, you have multiple number of metrics that have been suggested by the IRIS framework. Refinitiv framework, again, you have the which basically provides ESG scores for companies based on official company disclosures, but along the 3 dimensions of environmental, social, and governance. And it currently, again, uses as high as 450 metrics. Now, the reason why we need perhaps an enhancement and slightly different modified methodology is that there could be areas of non-alignment or areas of dissonance or discomfort between the Maqasid Sharia and between the SDGs. More importantly, there could be difference in the emphasis. For example, the protection and enrichment of deen or faith is of paramount importance when it comes to Maqasid Sharia, whereas when we talk about the SDGs, they're essentially faith neutral. And so therefore, if you want to create an impact in terms of faith by undertaking dawah activities and let's say setting up masjid and madrasas, you have to really look at a different, slightly modified framework to give a score, to capture the positive impact that such projects they have on the protection and enrichment of deen or faith. So therefore, we start with a text analysis of the project of Confluence, what it is all about. It has got these 4 major components or pillars. First is, of course, the research part, which involves text analytics, text analysis of literature and expansion of the universe of metrics, which we find in the context of, let's say, ESG, the existing ones. We need to expand them to include the metrics which are based on Maqasid Sharia. Then we have to, the second component is to design questions to measure the impact with respect to all the selected metrics, and then to develop a weightage scheme for them to reflect, to catch the impact of these specific metrics. And then the third part is to build a database with respect to sector or industry performance of such metrics. If certain, the existing players are already there, it's good idea to use a benchmark for the sector or the industry and focusing on the key players, and then build a database of rating their performance. And finally, for a given project, its performance has to be compared against the sector performance if it is there, or you can, that would be basically a relative performance. Or if you don't have data, for example, you're starting with a clean slate, and then perhaps then this, and the framework requires the stakeholders, all the stakeholders, to respond to the questions about how they feel about the specific performance of the given project, and based on the stakeholders' perception, a score is given. Okay, so that's the first phase of the project, and I'm not elaborating upon that considering the time constraints. And this Islamic value analytics, platform would basically give every project a score based on what the user wants, whether the score he or she wants purely in the form of SDGs or in the form of Muqasid al-Sharia alone, or he or she wants a composite score, which takes into account both the frameworks. Now, once you have the score, what next? Let's say you don't like the score and you are, seen as contributing negatively to the environment or not doing much for, let's say other SDGs. And you'd like your investors to, that your investors are impact conscious, and they would definitely see value in the impact that you're going to create. And they would, see you are going to see greater investor interest if you're looking at enhanced, if you can show somehow a better score. So that is the solution we try to provide in terms of the impact exchange, where we try to, using the blockchain technology, again, the exact, the impact, we try to see the impact unit in terms of the metrics. For example, in case of environment, it could be carbon footprint and carbon footprints, the carbon savings that you do, or the carbon negative impact that you are creating your actions. So either way, it can be measured. And these footprints can be converted into their dollar equivalents. There has been several global level studies which have a lot of research and action has gone into this to convert the carbon savings into the dollar equivalents. So that is not something that you have to reinvent the wheel. The literature is already there. But again, this is not the only kind of impact we are talking about. It's not just a green impact, but the impact could be, important for the investor or the donor who wants to leave a footprint in the healthcare sector or the renewable energy sector, or in the matter of, let's say, faith. He wants to contribute to the enrichment of faith. So what kind of metrics are to be used there to measure them? And that is where our research activity is going on currently. And let's say we have developed so far 3 use cases, which is for renewable energy, you have the kilowatt hours. And for healthcare, you have the actual ambulance miles covered. So when you are trying to convert this, the actual metrics in terms of the impact units, and the next step is to convert them into social cryptos.
Sorry,
now the social cryptos.
Sorry, Dr. Abdullah, 2 minutes remains.
Yeah. Okay, I'll try to be fast. So social cryptos basically allow the projects they can earn if they're already making the impact. They can earn new cryptos, and at the same time, if they are short of in terms of their impact performance, they can improve their impact score by acquiring new cryptos. So the exchange platform allows you basically solutions and enables projects to maintain a balanced or their targeted risk return impact profile, and that is in a very transparent way right on the blockchain. So this is just a slide which contrasts the existing approach and the approach of Confluence. In the existing approach, we are talking about the green sukuk or any kind of a green token, investment token, or a sukuk which tries to, or even crowdfunding. We raise funds to put it into green projects. What happens here, the problem is the tensions, if you can see it here, or the pain points. We see a large time lag between investments in the projects and the actual impact realization. For example, if it's green token or a green sukuk, you never know when the actual trees are going to be planted. There is a time gap, and by the time the trees they grow and you are reported of the impact, there is a huge time gap. So, and there is a possible bias and overstatement on measurement tools when employed by the project owner. So you need a third party to come in here and also reduce the time lag somehow. And then you have the rigidities that relate to the desired impact creation. You have very less flexibility in altering the nature of impact. Once you are exposed to, let's say you have invested in green sukuk, you are not going to invest, let's say you want to alter it or you want to change your impact portfolio. It's not easy. What Confluence seeks to do is it ensures that almost a zero time lag between the investments in projects and impact realization by reversing the process. That first you create the impact, then you create that into impact units, which cryptos, and then these can be liquidated or acquired by new users. So, and the measurement tools employed by third party here, the platform itself with no incentive to overstate on a state, and the donor or investor can easily change the nature of his or her footprints across various sectors, and it can design his or her own preferred portfolio of impact donations or impact investments. So this is again the Sharia compliance, the certification that has been accorded by, a very well-known firm. And Conference intends to apply the National Sharia Committee in Indonesia as well with this solution. And I think I'll stop with that. Maybe we can take the questions and utilize the rest of the time. Thank you very much.
Yes, mashallah. Thank you, Dr. Ubaidullah. Give them applause. Okay, thank you, Dr. Ubaidullah, for the insightful presentation covering the alignment or the linkage between the SDG and the Maqasid, and then introducing the social crypto platform. I think this is interesting. So I think from the three speakers that joining us here, it gives a very wide of horizon of discussion. So I do believe that we will have a lot of questions. So before I give a chance to people who are already joining our session here, so let me start with maybe small questions to three speakers here. So seeing how this Islamic finance and ESG can align, so from your point of view, from this three speakers' point of view, at what degree that Islamic finance and ESG alignment can give or drive the sustainable investment? Maybe starting from you, Pak Iwansyah.
Thank you. It's a question with very hard to answer, actually.
Since we have a very wide horizon here, I think it's nice to have such a question.
Yes, thank you very much for the questions. I think, as I just mentioned before, that I think in terms of the, when we are understanding about the concept of ESG, it's actually very much concerned with how we are protecting the quality of our planet, right? And then as well as the people, and also then the sector or the financial sector can also still generate profit. So it's a difficult work, actually, combining the three angle of this quality at once. So it's, in our case, as a financial regulator, we try to make it in more detail so everybody can understand what are being done by the OJK, as well as what we have prepared already for adoptions, this ESG. And we try to convert into this, we transform into a very detailed document, what I mentioned before, the roadmap phase 2 for the adoptions of sustainable finance. So we have these 7 components inside there. And then I think we try to have like even more detailed actions related into these 7 components. And I think in terms of the policy, we've done already with several regulations, right? And then in terms of this awareness, we try to have a more intensive campaign into also the financial sectors, because I think it's quite still frequent questions come to us, and I'm asking ourselves, what is to really benefit if you are implementing this sustainable finance to ourselves, whether it's really still generate profit. Likewise, we have done already with the conventional lending, something like that. So even from the financial sector themselves, still questioning ourselves, and then it's something that still hesitations with them, whether it's time for us to move towards the sustainable finance implementations. It's a big question for us, because we have not yet really, doing like a campaign, a lot of campaign to the financial sector. Not only the financial sector, but also for the for our society, for the people in common. They still not really understands about the ESG and also sustainable finance. It's a very difficult works actually for all of us. Even for ourselves, do we our habit to differentiate whether it's a garbage can be recycled or not? It's still question, right? Plastics, whether it's still we have to put into a special container, then it will be recycled. It's also doing something that we have to learn from even our childhood age, right? We cannot go into like ourselves already in 15, 50 years old, and then everybody, you have to put you have to differentiate whether this is recycling
Yes.
or no. So ESG actually link into the very basics, very essential concept of mindset of our people. So it's a very difficult works actually. So sometimes I just question myself whether we going to be very successful when we are implementing ESG,
Okay.
because we cannot go just like having a shortcut. Then okay, we have the ESG, we have this sustainable finance, and it will be done. No, we have to, what is it? To make a very basic. You have to do some works that adjusting the people mindset, adjusting the habit as well. So, and I think it's not only OJK works, but also other stakeholders. In terms of the government, we have to have like collaborations between government. So I cannot really answer your questions, but I think it's all is becoming relevant works for all of us if you are very concerned with the climate change, right? So you can see in what is this, in very current situations that North Jakarta is actually affecting by this the rising of the sea level, right? And also the other areas, we have this flood everywhere. We have this what is it, landslide as well. So I think it's time for us, to try to see. Where in Quran they say, what is it? Because of the works of the people, right? You can see the break in area in sea and also in land because of these people works. So that's really what happened to us as well. So preparing in more detail is like something that very challenging task for ourselves. So that's why I think when I share about the challenges, how we are going forward for this ESG, as well as sustainable finance adoption in Indonesia, not only about the people, not only about the products, but also about how we do some even more collaborations within ourselves, within government or people, even how to educate people from early days, and then understandings about this climate change, and all those will be affecting how we are going forward to do this sustainable finance, ESG, and in the future. That's one areas. The other areas is, I mentioned before, we have a lot of opportunities, right? We have this financing gap in terms of SDGs. I mentioned before, the figure is quite very huge number. And then there's opportunity as well for utilizing the security score funding, right? Because it's a retail platforms. Everybody can buy these sukuk, micro sukuks, right? So if we can being very successful in how we are practicing all these ecosystem, I think one, we are protecting our planet, and the other side is, there's a guarantee for having also this ESG in terms of micro sukuks, in terms of we are leverage on this funding availability because of I think a lot of investors now are very much concerned with also the climate change. So they are looking whether there's a pictures of these financial instruments really addressing the issue of climate change. Otherwise, they don't want to buy, they don't want to invest into our financial instruments or bond or sukuk. So they're very much now looking towards that. You can see this talking about philanthropies. They're also talking about whether our financial instruments embedded inside that financial instrument is the features of addressing the climate change. Otherwise, they just leave it. They don't want to buy it. And I think we just left behind because other countries very much aggressive in terms of they are adopting this sustainable finance. And if you not do the same thing, no, we cannot fill in the gap of in terms of financing the gap for the SDGs. So forget about the target and SDGs, you know, elevating poverty, highing the level of quality of our people. Forget those things because we are not very concerned with social finance, also the climate change issues. I stop there, Pa Muhammad Ismail, and back to you. Thank you.
Okay, very nice. So what you address, I think we need a collective efforts towards this ESG, even with a basic understanding about the climate change, will play an important role about how ESG and Islamic finance towards the impact investing. Okay, so next to Professor Dian, so how about from your side, at what degree that you see the convergence of Islamic finance and ISG can give or drive the sustainable investment in the future?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Muhammad Ismail. I think Bapak Irmansyah already covered many things to answer the question, but I will add some more. I think systemic finance can play a balance between social and economic aspect of human society. And I think it also can try to balance distributed justice, a comprehensive system of ethics and moral values. Moral values also can give us energy to do the good things. It means we can try to protect our environment. We care about our society, and also do the good things. Very important because it's part of moral values. I think Islamic finance can provide a lot of screening, very clear screening about what type of companies that we can invest, what type of product, excluding gharar, speculation, and maisir, and so on. So I think if we try to follow the guidelines of the Islamic economy, Islamic finance, we can create more good society, and there's no harm because we do the something that we sure just asset back or real sectorial, and also just away from the speculation and gharar. It creates more peaceful and also I think like calm in society. Maybe that I can add about the question. Thank you.
Okay, mashallah. Thank you, Professor Dian. So, okay, so how about you, Dr. Obaidullah? What is your point of view?
Thank you, Doctor. I think it has been said, and I'm going to say it again, that the Islamic finance industry, as we understand, the mainstream Islamic banking, banks and financial institutions, they need to change course. They need to change course from a purely compliance-driven approach, which they are following now, that basically shun those areas which are not Sharia compliant. They need to move from the Sharia the compliance approach to a maqasid-driven approach.
Okay.
And only then you can expect them to look at the environment in a desired way, that the importance that it deserves, the environmental concerns, and also the social concerns. Now, the social concerns, we have seen, mainstream Islamic banks getting into microfinance, and We have seen a lot of variation in the way they operate. Some they are still motivated by just the Sharia compliant profits. Some are find it okay to go for moderate profits, but more social impact. So this has been happening. It's not that all the Islamic banks or financial institutions are just driven by the minimum compliance approach. They're already moving towards a maqasid-driven approach, and many of the Islamic economists, the contemporary ones, and the policymakers, they have also highlighted that this need for Islamic financial institutions to change course. And of course, the minimum compliance approach was justified because this baby was, just born baby, and it had to face the competition of a huge competitor, the conventional financial system. So perhaps some amount of mimicking the conventional players and some amount of, following the same approach while without violating the basic tenets was okay. But I think now Islamic finance is maturing, and we had a long history of Islamic, decades old history now. So it's high time that, and it's good that this many observers of the scene, Islamic finance scene, they see this as the second chance for Islamic finance to make its presence felt. The first chance was the global financial crisis, and that is where many of our early economists or Islamic finance people, professionals and researchers, they saw an opportunity to show why an Islamic financial system is less vulnerable to crisis because of riba and gharar and things like that, the factors, the prohibition which make it more stable and more resilient. But again, that was the first chance which many feel that it was not adequately utilized, adequately exploited. But the second chance, which comes with the United Nations consensus goals of the SDGs and the focus on the ESGs. And now we have the maqasid to really talk about, and our policy should be driven by the maqasid and move away from the minimum Sharia compliance and look at the positive way, how much of additional value you create for the environment and how much of additional value you create for your societal impact on poverty alleviation in general. And in particular, you have the specific SDGs where the national performance is being monitored and is being spoken about, is being scored. People are giving scores to how a particular economy is doing, particular industry is doing, particular company is doing. So this is our chance to prove that Islamic finance already had this ingredients inbuilt into the theoretical framework. And in fact, Dr. Dian in her presentation made an excellent presentation of the conceptual framework underlying the ESG. And if you look closely at that conceptual framework, you will find Islamic finance all over the place. So none of these ideas are new to Islamic finance. We just have to revisit the way we have been doing our business. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. It's a good point of view that we have to move our approach from Sharia compliance to maqasid compliance. That's good point of view. Okay, so before I read or go to the Q&A room on Zoom, so we have several people here joining in Nusa Dua Bali. So does anyone have questions? You can raise your hand. You can ask your questions to the speakers. You can ask in Bahasa or in English. Do anyone here have questions? Okay, so let me go to the Q&A from Zoom. Okay, first questions to Pak Imansyah from Nur Khalis. The main problem for UMKM, the micro and small businesses, is how to get access as well as understanding the function of fintech. What are the efforts of the government, OJK in this context, in improving the financial literacy of micro and small medium businesses to utilize fintech, especially fintech, Sharia fintech? Please, Pak Imansyah.
Thank you for the questions. I think we've done a lot of works already, how we are doing this financial literacy, in particular for, if it is aiming for increasing the understandings of the financial services and products, in particular how is the UMKM or the SME can access to the financial sector. So I think I just remember when we had the policy that at least at minimum now is 30% of the total portfolio of bank loan must go into to the small and medium enterprises. I think it's also aligned with the government policy. So, but it goes to the individual bank as well, because it's very much depend on how is the characteristics of the business model of certain banks. But as a government policy in general, the government is very much put a high attentions on how we can facilitating the sustainability of the UMKM business. Towards the discussions of UMKM, I very much, very also put my perspective that we can go even further, even more granular on the SME. We can differentiate whether it is part of this micro or small or medium. So my discussion is actually in, addressing if it is like a medium, it's actually mostly almost close to corporate already. So what we are focusing, we need to be more focused on micro and small. That's the essential point that I want to share. And the other things is I frequently share as well to my colleagues is we want to have like a matrix, the transition matrix. So if it's as let's say last year we are targeting micro businesses, we hope this year this micro businesses is already elevated into small businesses, and the small businesses being upscale their business into medium businesses. So we can track that matrix, right? Yeah. So then the government can be maybe more focused on the still the remaining micro and small businesses, because they by themselves already can improve and can increase their business performance, because they are not belong anymore to micro and small businesses. So that's one part I always share with colleagues in regard how we are concerned, how we put our concern into the SMEs. Because everybody talking about SMEs, but which one as SMEs actually we are targeting, right? That's I think something that I want to that the Fintech Sharia also thinking about, where we just have the discussions that I think later on maybe we can set up like a data that can be used. I don't know whether the Fintech Sharia also have a model for the credit scoring, right? Then you can use this credit scoring to assess the credit worthiness of the SMEs. And it is also very benefit as well, not only for the Fintechs, but also for the SMEs. So a lot of things that we can do, and how we can upscale the business of this SME in the future. But my advice is actually from ourselves, we have to be more focused with small, medium, micro, small, and medium enterprises. Which one is we are targeting for today, tomorrow, and also the future? Otherwise, we still mix up with this concept of SMEs. Always everybody talking about SMEs, but with one of SMEs that you are targeting, right? Because at the end, I also shared this idea with colleagues from the other regulators, and I also said to them, well, you can see to our practices that always that medium is very much similar to corporate already. And the one that really left behind, still unbankable, underserved by the financial institutions, in particular banks, is actually the micro and small businesses. So I think that's the area that we can more focus on how we are opening more access for this kind of small business, micro and small business into our financial sector. I stop there. Here, Pak Ismail, and then back to you.
Okay, so uh, based on your point, we see that micro businesses is the most important, since we see even mentioned by Professor Dian earlier on her presentation that the one that impacted the most by the COVID actually those who has or the lower level of economy, including the micro businesses. So okay, we have like 50 million something of SME. That's the data before COVID. I don't know. Now maybe it's more than 50 million micro businesses. So if OJK, together with all the association here focusing on helping the micro businesses, we do believe that it will give a great impact on the national economy itself. Okay, thank you, Pak Imansyah.
If I may, Pak Ismail,
Yes,
I think
for sure.
so. If you observe the micro, small, and medium enterprises, they all do the similar businesses. I think in general we can see that most of them doing this. What is it? Food and also trade businesses, right? That's everybody can do the same things. You can go whether you can find pecel lele everywhere, right? You can find this what is it? Soto ayam everywhere. But everybody can do, and then the competition becoming very high,
Very
right?
tight, yes.
Because these micro businesses do the same thing. So maybe I think the government will also come up with like a policy, doing something that's more productive ways. And they have the very unique type of business, then that's the one that can be, sustained and give more value added for the economy. Because everybody can do it. Yes, it's very easy. You can, but the maturity or what is it, the mortality rate of this kind of business is also high, right? So you can find this soto ayam today, but maybe the day after tomorrow is already, yes, it becomes like gado-gado already. And then
Yes.
after they become like singkong goreng. So
Yes.
it's very volatile, right?
Yes.
Because of this, they just do the same things, engage with the type of food businesses. But if it is like something that having like a crafting industry, it thinks maybe different impact to the micro and small businesses. That's really my idea as well.
Okay, thank you, Pak Imansyah. Very well dressed. Thank you. So, okay, so we move to the next question. A question for Prof. Dian from Sigit Saputra. Fintech is a new thing for society, and currently there is a lot of negative sentiment towards fintech. According to Professor Dian, what should stakeholders do to overcome this so that micro and small medium enterprise or UMKM want and trust in fintech? Please,
Okay,
Prof.
thank you very much for the question, Sigit Saputra. This is a classic problem in our country. We have no trust sometimes in the particular situation.
Yep.
So it's very hard to yeah. It takes time to solve this problem, but because financial technology is a new thing, even in the global society, this is a new era. So we need read more. We need to think critically, and we also have to literate ourselves, our family, and our societies all together, because these are new things. Too many consequences if we decide with the wrong decision, especially for investment. So many offerings, fintech investment offering at the moment, and sometimes as long as the supporters of the product is talk too loud, and then they can like marketing like a marketer, so it's very easy to convince the society without any thinking further, without any doubt. Sometimes our society or our millennials, it's easy to decide to invest, but we don't know exactly what type of digital investment it is. So that's why we have to for my perspective as academician, I need to share more. We have to discuss more, and also literate our society to and unwrap the product, because there are like a black box in the technology fintech at the moment. So even the academician or practitioners is also didn't understand fully about the structure of that product. So this is very VUCA era of volatile or vulnerable, a lot of uncertainty, complexities, too very huge complexities in this era, and also ambiguous. Nah, so that's why in to facing this situation, it's not easy to say we can survive or not, but we have to deal with the uncertainty, and we have to work hard to study, to learn, and to asking the basic question. And we have to come up with the fundamental, what is right or wrong, especially about the structure of the product. Because too many gambling, speculation, and also what we call it, financial sectors without underlying business, underlying assets to support this kind of model, financial model. So yeah, as far as my concern, there's no way to study or to literate our society. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Professor Dian, for the complete answer. So we move to the third question. Question for Dr. Obaidullah from Dinda Sarah from UIN Surabaya. Can fintech become a new engine to drive the growth of an Islamic finance and economics? What is your advice regarding this?
Absolutely. I think this is a very broad comment, and I cannot agree more with this. Fintech is here to stay, and technology is something that we cannot close our eyes to. So Islamic finance has to adopt technology, all the emerging technologies, whether it is blockchain or whether it is AI or the Internet of Things. We are going to see more and more adoption, and it is a marketplace who would bring in these new use cases and new applications of technology to finance. I'm not exactly a proponent of any specific kind of development like DeFi or centralized finance, or whether the role of the institutional intermediaries will be there, or it will go up or go down. I'll not hazard a guess there, but I guess all the players of the financial system, as we understand, they are going to adopt the new technologies in the way they have been doing their business. Of course, there is an element of disruption that will come. Certainly, the way of doing business will change, and things are going to be more transparent, things are going to be more faster, and things are going to be less costly. And all that enhanced efficiency is something that our policymakers and all the participants, they aim at and they will benefit from.
MashaAllah. Thank you, Dr. Obaid. Okay, next questions from Nusa Dua Bali. Okay, please, guys. Okay, wait. Okay, that's the mic. You can use the mic. Thank you. So,
Hi.
yes.
Let me introduce myself. I'm Andriani. I'm from Link Asia.
Oh,
So,
mashallah.
um, our platform is Uang Electronic, so e-money, and then we also have the conventional one, and then the Sharia one. So, this is the very interesting discussion, and then this is for to all panelists, I think.
Okay.
So the thing that I would like to ask is about how your view about the regulatory aspects. So considering now that we thought that regulatory scrutinize to standardize the fintech industry is so heavy right now. So, and then why this is I raised this one because I think that the fintech industry in Indonesia in an early stage, so it's good to have a very good governance, but this is also to to hold on the industry because we still need the innovation, and then the innovation, the cheap innovation will be end up with the affordable services to the user. Now, so I think that's why I asking this because lately that the BI just announced the new PBIs. It's makes the fintech industries looks like a banking. So, so if the regulator scrutinize that thing, it means a high cost for us. And then also this is from the OJK. So I need to view from you about
Okay,
this. Thank
from
you.
all the panelists.
Sorry?
From all the panelists.
Yes,
Yeah,
from
okay.
all the
Okay,
panelists.
so the question is actually related to the topic of this fintech summit, how balancing the governance and innovation, Pak. So I think Pak Imansyah, you are the one who really understand the situation and can answer the question. Please,
Sorry, your name please, I think
Andriani.
Buat Andrian, okay.
Andriani from Link Aja.
Link aja. Okay.
Yes,
Thank you.
state-owned
Thank you.
fintech payment.
Thank you, Bu Andriani. Is a very essential question for us as well. Given that question, because I think when I start my presentations, actually, I try to share with you that we have to have like a strike balance between innovations as well as what is it, risk mitigation, something like that. So I just recall when I engaged with drafting regulations on P2P lending back 2016. There's a lot of discussions how you put whether it's very similar to banking industry, the incumbent sectors, right? How you design the framework on risk management, whether you want to put, well, in banks we recognize 8 type of risk, credit risk, market risk, up to strategic risk. So everybody knows about that already. So when I proposed that draft into our board of commissioners, they just questioned myself at that time. Are you comparing this fintech P2P lending with the banks? And everybody laughed at that. Because can you imagine? Because there are only like 5 people in that fintech platform. We compare with banks, maybe hundreds, even more than hundreds, right? In branches as well, they have like a huge network in everywhere. So then I just turned down myself, then realized that we cannot put all these prudential regulations into the fintech sectors. That's why then we take out some ideas on this risk management. And then it becoming more light. It becoming more light because we try to, what is it, endorse the innovation compared to the context of the prudential regulations. That's why I think you are very right. That's the idea for ourselves as a regulator. So I just want to share with you. Now the idea continues, right? We have this infinity. We invite everybody that want to have this fintech business model come to us, and we discuss how is the business model, how is the risk management, and can see whether a lot of risk engaged or embedded into that kind of model. And very always the issue is it must be very in the area of it is still supporting the innovations, not really. You can see from the regulation that we have only P2P mentions about prudential regulations, but the other is something about market conduct ideas, not the prudential supervisions anymore. So I think that's one. And the last one I want to share with you, government now is drafting what we call in bahasa RUU P2SK. It's about empowering the financial sector. It's an omnibus law actually, putting all the issues, including as well the fintech, into this omnibus law. So we have the umbrella, the regulations that we can benchmark into how we are put into more detail into our regulations. But the idea, we have like more strong legal foundations for fintech business in the future. Hopefully that's also positive for ourselves. And then what is it? Like a president say, it's always like light touch and safe harbor. But don't forget about safe harbor. We provide everybody happy because I think from the questions, there's a lot of bad consequences as well because of the fintech. Everybody can. So I want to share that we do as well the digital financial literacy. All right, that's something that we want to expand in next year as well, covering a lot of universities and talking with a lot of students as millennials. They can acting as our influencer to the people in a more broad way. So I think that's what I can share with you. But I think on top of that, we can have like a bilateral discussion later on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Pak Imansyah. So, but before we continue, well, we are already running out of time actually, but I will give 30 seconds for each other speaker, Professor Dian and Dr. Obaidullah. But I need to inform you that the Pak Imansyah is the man behind the regulation that peer-to-peer lending now. So we have to give him an applause now. We see now peer-to-peer lending is the backbone of fintech industry in Indonesia. So I think we do believe that the future of fintech, especially
I think
fintech
that was my fate. I was lucky I was there.
Mashallah, mashallah. And we have to say thank you to you, Pak.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to give 30 seconds to Prof. Dian and Dr. Muhammad Ubaidullah. So what do you think, how we can balance the governance and innovation on fintech Sharia industry from your point of view? Okay, 30 seconds only. Please, Professor Dian.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
It's not an easy way to do because we call it disruption. It means very great changes this situation compared to the previous one. So that's why there are a lot of consequences that we have to face later. Yeah, not too tight, but also not too loose. So we make it balanced, and we have to facing a lot of consequences. So minimize risk management occur. We have to manage a little bit mudarat benefit over to the cost-benefit analysis.
Okay, good. Thank you, Professor Dian. Okay, so now we move to Dr. Muhammad Ubaidullah. Another 30 seconds.
Thank you so much. I think the trade-off for a regulator between concerns about efficiency and ethics is well recognized. And also there are other trade-offs like between creativity and which leads to efficiency enhancement, and which might also bring in the bad actors. So basically, governance, regulation and governance, I think it should be done in a way which encourages the good actors, the good practices. At the same time, with a very firm eye on the bad practices and the possible bad practices and the bad actors. Thank you.
MashaAllah. Okay, thank you. Thanks a lot. We have to give them an applause. Thank you to all the panelists. So before I go to the conclusion, this is one of the most important things we have to do within the webinar is taking a picture, taking photo together, okay? So panitia boleh? So please, everyone, you can turn your video on so we can take a picture.
Thank you, Prof. Dian. Thank you, Pak Dr. Abdullah.
Thank you.
Yes, don't leave,
Pak
stay with us. So we are not finished yet. So please turn your video on. 1, 2, 3. Good. Once again. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so now my turn to read the conclusion. So we have a very wide horizon of discussion. I think if Pak Muhammad Ubaidullah and Professor Dian are with us in Bali, we can sit another hours, day and night, next to the beach discussing these topics. But okay.
But not in this room, right?
Yes, of course, next to the beach, Pak. Okay, the conclusion is, okay, thank you, Pak Iman Shah, covering about how is the landscape of our fintech industry right now. We see like we have a 10% market share right now. We can see as the optimistic view, we believe that we still have rooms for improvement, especially if we can combine and align the Islamic fintech, Sharia fintech with the ESG concept. Prof. Dian already mentioned to us how the comparison between Sharia, Islamic finance, ESG, and the conventional things. And also, Dr. Muhammad Ubaidullah also mentioned to us how is the perspective using the maqasid. Is you can cover all the SDG things and related to Islamic finance, especially that we need another discussion, especially those social crypto platform, Dr. Ubaidullah, inshallah. Okay, so Islamic finance. In this case, Islamic fintech can support the implementation of the ESG framework and impact investing. Mr. Iman Shah has conveyed the commitment of the regulator, OJK in this case, in this regard. In addition, Professor Dian has also explained how to harmonize Islamic finance with the ESG framework. And Dr. Ubaidullah also stated that the values in the ESG and SDGs were very relevant to the goals of Sharia with the perspective of Maqasid Sharia. This proves the universality of Islamic economic values and it's relevant to the world developments in the future. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for all the speakers. I felt very honored sitting among all of these prominent speakers. We learned a lot today. Thank you for everyone who joining us here in Nusa Dua, Bali, and thank you for everyone who joined us in Zoom. See you next time in Indonesia Fintech Summit, inshallah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam
warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, terima kasih.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Dunia saat ini tengah berjuang, hadapi musuh tak kasat mata, yang memberi dampak pada seluruh aspek kehidupan. Namun di tengah tantangan selalu ada secercah harapan. Aktivitas terus berjalan memutar roda perekonomian. Dalam keadaan ini, seluruh dunia perlu bergerak bersama, mencapai pemulihan bersama. Ini pula yang berusaha dilakukan oleh G20. Forum G20 terdiri atas negara-negara terbesar di dunia. Bersama, G20 membentuk lebih dari 60% populasi bumi, 75% perdagangan global, dan 80% PDB dunia. Tujuan G20 adalah untuk mewujudkan pertumbuhan global yang kuat, berkelanjutan, seimbang, dan inklusif. Tiap tahunnya, presidensi G20 dipegang oleh salah satu negara anggota yang memiliki andil dalam menentukan topik pembahasan forum. Dan pada 2022, presidensi G20 dijabat oleh Indonesia. Dengan keadaan dunia yang masih terdampak pandemi, presidensi ini merupakan pengakuan atas kekuatan dan ketahanan ekonomi Indonesia. Kesempatan ini merupakan momentum berharga yang hanya dapat terjadi sekali setiap generasi. Untuk itu, presidensi G20 2022 harus dimanfaatkan sebaik mungkin. Dari penyusunan agenda pembahasan yang dapat mendukung pemulihan dunia sekaligus memberi manfaat bagi Indonesia, penyelenggaraan kegiatan yang menampilkan kualitas unggul Indonesia di tingkat internasional, hingga promosi Indonesia untuk meningkatkan perdagangan, pariwisata, dan investasi dalam negeri. Kontribusi semua pihak sangat penting, mulai penyusunan materi, penyiapan sarana prasarana, hingga komunikasi. Dukungan masyarakat pun sangat berarti untuk meningkatkan citra Indonesia di dunia internasional. Mari manfaatkan momentum presidensi G20 Indonesia 2022 untuk beri kebaikan bagi bangsa. Indonesia, saatnya pimpin pemulihan dunia.
Recording stopped.